Hi, my name's Adam Ralph. I'm a chess tournament organiser based in northwest London. You can find information about all my events here at chessengland.com. You already know the Twitch address, but if you don't, twitch.tv/Adam Ralph. And after the event, you can always find the videos on YouTube, youtube.com/Adam Ralph. Okay, so today I'm going to look at a couple of games sent in by a viewer, Tim Valentine. Two contrasting games, contrasting successes and failures, but both very valuable games to learn from, especially if you play a lot of chess and you don't necessarily go back over your games. You just play a game and then you move on to the next one. These are two very interesting games. Okay, so the first one, let's just load that up. First one is Tim playing black, and we'll just have a quick look through, see what you think. So black is playing the King's Indian defence, and white plays a very classical setup. Just puts his knights on c3 and f3. Black castles, bishop e2, e5. Okay, so this is a standard position in hundreds of thousands of games with King's Indian. And white has choices here. He can just castle, or he can play d5, or, as he does in the game, he plays d takes e5, initiating a queen exchange. Okay, so each one of these choices represents a different approach to the game, but particularly the move he plays, d takes e5, suggests that after d takes e5, which took place in the game, queen takes d8, rook takes d8, white is interested in playing for an endgame advantage. In fact, I would call this an endgame opening, because white has basically chosen to exchange off queens at the earliest opportunity. He's probably going to exchange off more pieces over the next few moves, probably going to exchange off the heavy pieces, the rooks, on the d file, and he's playing for an endgame. So what is black's strategy in this position? Unless you're happy with the draw, what do you do? I would suggest in these sorts of positions you need to know which pieces to exchange off and which pieces to hang on to. And in black's case, the dark squares are very important. So if you have a look at this position, you'd probably think, well, the knights are going to be useful because they can reach any coloured square, but they can also find these useful outposts in the rest of the game. Maybe even though the dark squared bishop doesn't look like it has much of a future, maybe even that is a piece worth hanging on to. And what about the light squared bishop? Maybe that's valuable. Maybe you can put it on e6 and pressurise c4, or maybe you can play bishop to g4 and exchange it off for one of white's knights. From white's point of view, he is going to want to put a knight on c5, d5, which is a really nice outpost. And if white can force you to exchange off on d5 and you play c takes d5, he then has an open c file to put his rook on and then pressurise your queen side. So that's quite a good plan. And white plays bishop g5 in this position, and here knight d5 is actually a very nasty threat because of this pin. So black plays the right move here. He plays c6, and I know it pretty much up to here. This is quite a familiar position. And in white's position here, he does something very committal. He plays b4. Now, the first time I looked at this game, I played it all the way through, and I tried to look back and see where I thought things started to go astray. And I want you to remember this move. Every time you play a pawn move, especially in the opening, you're not developing pieces. Pawns don't move backwards, so once he's put it on b4, it's going to be maybe possibly a target for attack. It's no longer supporting the knight on c3, and also it proves more difficult to defend on that square than it would on b2. So I'm not sure that b4 is theory. I think in a position like this, the theoretical moves might be something like knight takes e5, and after which you play rook e8 and you probably win back the pawn on e4. You've broken the pin. Or what else could white play? Something like maybe rook d1. I'm fairly certain b4, if I went and looked that up in a chess database, I am not convinced that would be a main line. Not even a sideline. But let's see what happens after this b4 move. Black plays knight a6, immediately putting this knight under pressure. White plays a3 to defend it. He's already playing defensive moves. Now this looks like a strong structure, but black only has to play knight c7 and a5, and really you're starting to look a bit shaky on the queen side. This is not a structure you want to have to spend a lot of time defending as white in an endgame. And the more pieces you exchange off, the worse it becomes, because you have less pieces to defend these pawns. Black plays knight c7, probably wants to bring his knight to e6 and maybe to d4, lovely outpost. And white could play knight takes e5. Why do you think he doesn't play knight takes e5? Well, this huge diagonal is opened up if he plays knight takes e5, and there's probably some nasty horrible trick with rook e8 followed by knight takes e4, and this is pinned, and then this is a fork. It's all happening. So knight c7 intending knight e6 to d4 is a good plan. White castles and black plays bishop g4. Remember what we said about this bishop. Is this bishop more important than this knight? I don't think so. I think this knight is very useful because it covers this square. We want to use it as an outpost. This bishop is probably going to be hemmed in by a few pawns, and also generally if you're cramped you want to exchange off some pieces to give yourself a bit more room, and that's probably the piece that you want to exchange off. What do you think? If you think the bishop should go to e6, maybe, but then how are you going to put more pressure on this pawn? I'm not sure there is a sensible way of doing that. So bishop g4, I like that. And white decides he can't hang around. He's just going to have to make the bishop do something on this square. He can't bear the tension, so he provokes. Bishop takes f3, which is of course what black wants to play, and then he plonks a knight on e6. Nice to see somebody on the chat. Just proves that the microphone works and I'm not just talking to myself as usual. So knight e6, and now he has this massive square on d4. His plan has come to fruition. Knight to d4 is going to be very useful. Bishop e3, trying to stop it, and he decides, black decides to play knight d4 straight away. I can't criticise that. If I could find a way of plonking my knight on d4 and then he captures it and then I can plonk another piece on d4 like another knight, I would. But I can't see a way of bringing the other knight to bear on that square, so Tim could have played, you know, rook d3, something like that, and just doubled rooks. But I think white can just defend the knight and then play maybe bishop e2, expelling that rook. So knight d4, can't really complain about that. White does what seems natural and just plays rook a d1, allowing black the opportunity to play knight takes f3, smashing up the king's side. But actually in this position I'm not sure smashing up the king's side is as useful to black as it might be with the queens on, where you have a natural mating attack with the queens on. That would be suicidal to allow black to smash up the king's side in most positions with the queens on. And black decides not to take it. He plays knight e8, he changes his mind in a few moves. c5, grabbing space, looks nice. Maybe if white can play bishop e2 to c4, this would be a fantastic square for the bishop, but he can't really get there. And meanwhile, this constellation of pawns is, superficially it looks great, but if black were to swap off lots of pieces, then a5 really undoes this whole structure. You either allow black to take on b4 and invade, or you play b takes a5. Wouldn't that be ugly? And then this pawn is hanging, and this pawn is hanging, and this pawn is hanging, and white's position starts to crumble. So you've really got to watch out on the queen side. Knight c7, this is a fantastic move. Knight, you notice that knight e8 to c7 to e6 is threatened, and then he'll be able to take back on d4, or smash up the king's side and then put the other knight on d4. So white's not getting away with this. He's going to have to watch out for these lovely knights. He plays bishop g5, and I haven't got any comments about that. I just think white is actually surprisingly running out of useful moves, and it's just a question of where black places his remaining pieces and what pieces he swaps off. Now, you'll have noticed that white was playing for an endgame. The idea was white was swapping off pieces and going into an endgame with, in this case, maybe two bishops. He might end up with two bishops if he's lucky. But who do you think is better in this position going into an endgame? Black plays knight takes f3 check, g takes f3, and he doesn't mind playing f6 in his position because this bishop is going to come out either on f8 or h6. It's not permanently blocked in. He's making sure his e5 pawn is nice and solid. Then he's going to put his other knight on a useful square. So choose a square, f4, d4, maybe neither. White thinks, well, I've got to stop him doing that, so he plays knight e2. And black doesn't actually have to play either of those moves at the moment. He doesn't want to end up with, for instance, a pawn here, which could be easily blockaded. So you've got to be careful of knight d4, and then maybe you take it with the bishop, you take back with the pawn, and he goes knight c1 to d3 and blockades it. Very useful square for the knight here. Especially if the pawn is sitting here. You just put your white knight here, and then the pawn can't go anywhere ever. So black's got to be careful, but the threat, as they say, is worse than the execution. So he has to watch out for this at all times. And black could play in this position. He can just play some quiet moves. He can go king f7, or he could king f7 to e7 and maybe swap off the rooks if he wanted to. But he goes for an active plan, which is nice. f5. He's not worried about any of white's threats on the d-file. Now white can't really double the rooks on the d-file in any other way, so he plays this move, rook d6. They're threatening rook f to d1, and that would be a nice achievement. And he reckons after rook takes d6 from black, c takes d6. This pawn is weak, and he's got a passed pawn on d6, which looks wonderful. But quite rightly, I think black just takes it and plays. Well, what would you play here? You have to watch out for that. So you don't want to move your rook away, but actually I think a5 is probably a good positional threat in this position. So you want your rook on a8, probably. Or you can play rook d8 and swap this pawn for this pawn, possibly. But I think white just defends it. After you play rook d8, he just defends it, and this is still hanging. You've got to worry about that. Or you can play some other move. What would you play? Black decides that this knight has done his job. It's not going to go to these squares, so he's going to reroute it, and he plays knight f8. The idea being to stop d7, and white plays rook d1. He's really just trying to push his pawn home. And black plays f4, which is an interesting move. It's quite committal, but I think he's seen where he wants to put his pieces and planned ahead accordingly. He wants to put his rook on d8. He's going to bring his king out and attack this pawn, and he reckons that he's going to win this pawn. It's too far advanced. And I have to say, I agree with him. Instinctively, I think that's probably not going to last forever on that square. But it looks good. And in positions like this, you just have to start calculating and see if you can work out how you're going to capture the pawn before white makes a threat of it. So both sides put their pieces on good squares, and now black is the first to threaten this pawn, and white has basically not been able to defend it. So black wins the pawn. Now white in this position was counting on a tactic. Can you see it? There is a pin, and there has been a pin on this diagonal since the bishop appeared on b2. And white plays knight takes f4, taking advantage of that pin. So he's no longer material down. Okay, same number of pawns. But look at the structure of the pawns. Isolated pawn, backward doubled pawns, and in sort of positional chess you would call these pawn islands. They're little groups of pawns, not connected to any other pawns. So this is one pawn island, this is two pawn islands, this is three pawn islands. And I guess even though black also has three pawn islands, the most important feature of that position is black can force a passed pawn on the queen's side because he has a majority, and white can't force a passed pawn at all. He's got crippled pawns, and I don't think he's going to be able to get rid of them. He might try moving the knight and then playing f4 and using that pin. Black has to be careful of that. But actually black does something even better, I think. He swaps off another pair of pieces because he reckons without the knight, quite rightly, white has no counterplay. So the knights are exchanged, and then it's a question of who outmaneuvers who in this endgame. And remember, black is trying to restrain white's pawns, so he's stopping f4 in this position with the pin on the diagonal, and he's doing it by playing g5, so it's a good move. b5, stopping white's king getting any activity. That's a very good move because he's seen ahead here. Bishop c3, bishop f8, wants to play c5, bishop d2 attacks the pawn on g5, so you've got to play the next move, h6. There's no hurry. Good general rule in endgames of any kind is don't hurry. You've got plenty of time. With the queens off, especially. No mate threats, just put your pieces on the best squares before you rush to push any pawns. Bishop e3, good move. So black plays a6, white plays king c3, bishop e7, king d3, king d7, just manoeuvring his pieces. And now black is ready to play something very creative. And there's a key move in this endgame. See if you can spot it. I mean, if it weren't for this kind of move, this game could go on indefinitely, and I think both sides would just give it up as a draw. But in this position, black plays what looks impossible, c5. His bishop's on that square, pawn's on that square, so it looks like he's only defended by one piece, so white just snaffles that. Free pawn. And then king c5, and now you can see that there's no way for white to add to the defense of that pawn. So he's going to win it back, and then it's going to be a king and pawn ending with a majority of pawns for black on this side of the board. And if you play a lot of endgame positions, you'll know that that is virtually a winning position. As soon as he saw this tactic with c5, that was that. And basically all black has to do is create this passed pawn, and he possibly could have played king d4, but king b5 is great. White has to move, zugzwang. Compulsion to move means that white has to play a move he doesn't want to play, which is to step backwards, and then black rushes in. And now he's got an extra move to take this pawn on f3, and white basically resigned. And the reason is it's black's move, king takes f3, and white hasn't taken the pawn on b4. In this position, he could have played king d4, king e3, king takes f3, but white would already be ready to take on b4. So black wins this game, and it was a lovely endgame. But as you can see, he just exchanged off all the right pieces. So what's the lesson of that opening? The lesson of that opening from white's point of view is he really needs to look at the theory after c6. If you play an opening like this, it's not necessarily any less complicated because it's a simpler position, because the queens are off. So you've got to know the theory. And I think black played it just right. So let's have a look at the other game that Tim sent me just quickly. And just look at the contrast in the two. Excuse me while I just load this up. And any advice you have on doing this more efficiently would always be welcome. Let's flip the board round because Tim was playing white in this position, and thank you. I'm going to play a match after this against chesspatzeruk, Jack de Villiers. Okay, so this is a short game. It's quite a brutal game, and Tim didn't have much fun playing this game. I'm trying to remember what he said. He said something like, what did he say? A miserable game. That's right, I remember him saying it's a miserable game. And I play the French as black, so here are my comments. White plays this line. This is Tim playing white. He plays the winnower. Now if you're going to play this line against anybody who plays the French, you are choosing a line which is anti-positional for white, because you allow this double pawn on c3. That's just anti-positional. Black gets a lovely positional structure, and your compensation is a kingside attack, more space on the king side. This is your natural area of superiority because of these pawns. But black gets a very quick attack on the queen side, and if you're not sharp and you don't know the theory, you can get into trouble very quickly. So this is okay. Queen g4 is okay. Queen c7 is okay. This is interesting. Queen c7, very sharp move, threatening nasties down the c file, especially on this square. And black plays c takes d4 in this position. And now, this is the crux of the matter. White plays queen takes d4. Now in this position, white's pieces are on the wrong squares. Because what he really wants is his knight on e2, where it can defend c3 to stop queen takes c3 check. So he can play queen takes g7 and then win the h-pawn. And that's a very wild position. So in this position, he should have taken on g7, taken on h7, and then black plays takes on d4 and you go knight e2. That's theory. But he didn't. He put his knight on f3, and this is a very weak square. C takes d4. Now what's happening on this square? Okay. So the theory is useful to know, because I don't think many people would play this. Queen takes g7 after queen c7. I don't think they'd play queen takes g7 instinctively, queen takes h7, and then knight e2, which looks like a really stupid square for the knight. But if you play through some games in the French Winnower, especially the mainline Winnower, C18, okay, this is an Encyclopedia of Chess Openings code, C18. If you play any games online, you'll probably find a classification somewhere on the screen where it classifies your game according to the old-fashioned Encyclopedia of Chess Opening codes. Then you can Google French Defense C18 and then use that to find loads of games in the line. Then you can play through it. Chessgames.com is a very good resource, and then you can see how the stronger players play these lines with white and black. So queen takes d4. Already black has got a fantastic position. I think if I were playing black, I'd be very happy. You are never going to get to an endgame and survive because you have a horrible pawn structure. You are defending that pawn on e5, that's a trump, but your queen is about to get kicked around, knight c6, and if you do what white does here and exchange off the white squared bishop, you are left with this horrible bishop which it can't really find a good square. Bishop d7, and then white felt obliged, rather than moving the queen, to play bishop takes c6, but after knight takes c6 you have to move it anyway. And now black has a kind of ideal position for anyone who plays the French. He's got this square, and you haven't got a light squared bishop to challenge anything that lands on that square, so he heads towards that square immediately. And you got a castle. If you play knight d2, then bishop b5 stops you castling because of that diagonal. That's horrible. So you got a castle, and then you go knight c4, another attack on the queen, queen e2, and any castles. Now normally at this point you'd have a bishop here, and you might have bishop takes h7 check or something aggressive, but sadly in this position white has come out of the opening without his key pieces, and he's on the back foot throughout, as he felt himself. So knight c4, queen e3, and then the queen has to go to queen e3 to e2. There's too many moves with the queen. So you just play a few developing moves. Black plays very good developing moves. Open c file, and then white plays queen d3. That's another queen move. Black plays a nice prophylactic move, just stopping the pieces coming to g5 with any nasty threats, and more importantly giving his king some air. And white plays queen d4, another queen move. Black plays b6 just to stop queen takes a7, and he goes queen g4, another queen move, threatening bishop takes h6, which would be useful if black didn't see it. King h7, queen g3, another queen move. Black plays f6. Now if you play a lot of French defences, this is a familiar trick. Let's call it a motif. Okay. Normally when the queens are opposite each other, or let's say there's a bishop on f4 undefended by anything, f6 is a very clever move because it allows the queen to either exchange queens off, which you'd be very happy to do, or to win the bishop on f4, which you'd be very happy to do, if white plays e takes f6. Okay, so this is a familiar maneuver for anyone who plays the French. He would be quite happy after e takes f6, and then you take on g3, and white doesn't have time to recapture, so he plays h takes, let's say, and you play rook takes, and now you've exchanged off the queens and you've got this marvellous endgame to look forward to. So f6 is a good move. White plays bishop f4, which looks great. Now you're threatening to take on f6. That looks nasty, but black has seen further, so he plays g5, and now unfortunately you can't avoid problems. If the bishop moves, which square does it go to? Choose a square. Then black can play maybe even f5. Depends where you go to. But in this position you could play f takes e5 and just open up the f file. Yeah, f takes e5. You've got your knight on c4 and you've got your queen on c7 defending that pawn. Or you could play knight takes e5 with the idea of swapping off a few more pieces. That knight might be useful for an attack, so yeah, you could do that. Or you could play something like f5. Now I think I'd be more inclined to just swap off some more pieces with knight takes. And then after this, I don't mind swapping off queens. After g5, what would you play? You've got to find a square for the bishop first. You don't really have many good squares. You can't play this because you're blocking the defense of that pawn, so you just lose a pawn. And you can't really play bishop c1. Doesn't really look very nice. So white's in trouble. And this crucial point of the game, white had to play one of those, and instead he took on f6, completely missing the fact that, well, queen takes f4 is a piece. Not just a piece, but a queen exchange. So the game went on a few more moves, and Tim, playing white, he fought valiantly, but his position is crumbling. He's losing all those weak pawns, and in this position black played rook takes e5, and white could have played on with f3, maybe winning the piece back, but the moment has passed. So what would I say about that game? Okay, simple advice really is, if you're playing, especially in a long game, and especially against somebody plays the French, don't engage in complicated theoretical positions without having done your homework. Because in this position you've really got to take on g7, rook g8, queen takes h7, and then he takes on d4. Now this looks like your position is falling to bits, but you play knight e2, I think, and there are lines where black plays queen takes e5 or knight c6 and white is fine. It's a very complicated position. If you don't like complicated positions, just avoid this completely. So I showed somebody else some fairly boring but solid positional lines against the French, like the advanced variation. Look up Sveshnikov. Sveshnikov played this his whole life and did very well with it. grandmaster, or play something like the Tarash. And which case, if black plays c5, you usually end up with an isolated pawn on d5, or the queen comes to d5 and gets kicked about a bit, but black has a very solid position. Or black will play knight f6 and white will get e5 and maybe build up a pawn chain with c3, e5, f4, and as black you've got to know how to break that position up, which means learning a bit of theory, because you're not going to be able to find it over the board. And white likewise has to know how to hold on to his position, or know when to give up these squares and put his pieces on d4 and e5, otherwise he's going to get squashed. Okay, I hope that was useful. In a few minutes I'm not going to log off and log back on again, because that takes a little while. I'm going to play a challenge match against ChessPatzeruk UK. So if you're online and you're watching, let's have a look, see how many people are watching. You can probably watch this later on twitch.tv/Adam Ralph. Let's do this. It's very old-fashioned, old school. Twitch.tv, you know that already, or youtube.com/Adam Ralph. New technology meets old technology, and I should be playing Jack in just a moment. Now the format of the match is one which might be familiar to you, because you've probably played lots of chess like this at your club. The format is 5 minutes each, and then when one person wins, they actually lose a minute. Which sounds fairly sedate, but when one person wins several games in a row and they're left with 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, it's really hard to play sensible chess, especially if you're streaming at the same time, as you'll find out very soon. And what we'll do is we'll play 5-minute countdown, and the person who wins when they've got 1 minute on their clock wins the match. And if there's a draw, you just play at the same time control and you just reverse colours. Now, because ChessPatzeruk UK is much more experienced at this, I'm going to allow him to do the challenging so that we get the colours right and the times right. And I will write it down so that I remember. But we'll see how we go. Last time I was lucky to win the match, but we'll see what happens this time. I'm not the world's best blitz player, although I do enjoy it. My opinion of blitz is that it's a very useful training tool. It's great fun. If you play lots of blitz online and do nothing else, it's probably not going to improve your chess. But if you play a lot of chess online and it's the only chess you play, it's a very useful way to improve your game. If you then download the games and then look at the games on something like Chess, because you can use that as a tool where you can analyze your games on a board, or something like SCID. SCID. SCID is Shane's Chess Information Database, and it's completely free, so you don't have to pay anything. But you can play through the games on a graphical user interface, and you don't have to use an engine, but you can do. I would avoid it at first. Just have a look at your games, maybe show the games to somebody who's a bit stronger than you, who can give you some advice, or if you like, send me the games. chessengland.com, and you'll find my contact details right at the top. And I'd be quite happy to give you some advice. Whether or not you take that advice is up to you. I think my advice to you is gained, the knowledge I've got is gained from playing at about 2100 for many years. That's my kind of level. I'm not likely to go up, and I am more likely to go down. And also, I've known quite a few very good coaches and had advice from them. I can just pass it on to you. And what you do with it, of course, is entirely up to you. So while we're waiting for Chesspatzer UK to send me a challenge, which he will do very soon, don't forget that if you're watching this on Twitch, you can donate, you can subscribe, you can go to my Patreon page, again patreon.com/AdamRalph. You can, if you've got Prime, you can subscribe at no cost to yourself, and I will get some financial reward from that, a very small amount. If you follow me on Chess, then at the moment I'm using the handle chesspatzerind, Chesspatzer India, and playing all my chess online on Chess using that handle. But if you just want to follow my twitch.tv broadcasts, then twitch.tv /AdamRalph, and you should be fine. And the other thing you can do is you can go to youtube.com /AdamRalph, and you'll find links to my videos and also Chesspatzer UK's videos, which are excellent. His videos, not mine. I'm still learning. Okay, so here's the challenge. I'm going to accept it, and let's see what colour I get with. Right, so I get black, and I'm going to play. I know he's done some preparation, so he's probably expecting the French. I'm going to play knight c6, which is not it's not an unusual move for me, and it still transposes into the French in many lines, but it might take him out of his preparation. So in this first game, I don't want him to be too comfortable. Bishop takes c6. I mean, he's giving me his lovely light squared bishop, capturing towards the centre, and I might play d5 and c5, and I've got double pawns, but they're quite useful when you're attacking the centre. You can attack the centre with c5 twice, which is fantastic. So Chesspatzer Wales is online, sending me a message. Hi. Let's see what I can do in this position. It's a French. And you know what? If I played bishop a6 here, he'd go queen a4 check and win the bishop. So I really don't want to do that. But what I do want to do is play bishop a6 and stop him castling if he plays d4. So he's got to be very careful. Got to be very careful in this position. And I can also play c4. And if he plays knight d4, I can play c5, which is quite a nice move to play. Okay, so I'm going to play my knight to h6. Knight on the rim is dim, but knight f5 is the destination, putting d4 under pressure, which is thematic if he plays d4, and he probably should. d4 is a good move. The problem with d4 is, in the long run, I'm going to be able to attack it twice, once with that pawn and once with that pawn. Now I could have left my knight on h6. Bishop takes h6 was a threat in inverted commas. Now it would be interesting to know, if you're online whether or not on Lichess it comes up with this, whether it tells you that Chesspatzer India is streaming, which it should do. And if it doesn't, I'll have to think again. Now I could go knight h6, because if I go knight e7, he takes on c5, and I don't mind playing. This is not so bad. If I do that, it's not so bad if he takes it. If he thinks that's an achievement, because I can play bishop g7 and I can castle, and then I can play f6 and open up the position. So it's not too bad. But I admit it looks pretty horrible. So the question is, h3 is a canny move. So now I've got to decide what to do with my pieces. If I go bishop a6, forces him to go rook e1, but really the bishop needs to be on that diagonal. I need to be able to play c takes d4, c5, bishop b7, and somehow open up that diagonal. Yes. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to play a5 because I want to put my bishop on a6 without any nonsense with queen a4 check, and I can also in some positions play a4. If he goes positional on me, I can attack onto queen's side. Bishop g5. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. Okay. Rook b8. I'm not going to castle that side, so rook b8 is a useful positional move. I'm just watching the clock as well. Don't want to spend too much time thinking about these moves, but I have to find a way of putting my knight onto a useful square. Okay, so he's done that. That's good. So I think I'm happier now. I can possibly take on d4. Knight takes d4, c5. Okay, good. Let's do that. So whatever he does, I'm going to play c5. His queen can't get out to a4. My pawn can come to a4 in an endgame and bash up his queen side. He's not going for anything too aggressive. Just sensible developing moves. Now the question is, can I afford to play bishop e7? The idea being, if he takes on h6, what happens? Bishop. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so in that position I probably would have played bishop takes h6 because the bishop is now no longer on this diagonal to defend the pawn. So I'm slightly happier now. I'm going to castle and I'm going to think about playing f6 at some point. Okay, so is he threatening to play takes c5 and then knight a4, or maybe just knight a4? Probably is. I'm going to castle. When in doubt. That looks like a nice sensible developing move, but he's going to take on c5. I'm going to play queen takes c5 and he's going to go knight a4. So I have to watch out. Knight e4. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. That's still tactically possible, but I'm not sure whether it's positionally great. What does he want to do? He wants to play knight f6 check. Oh, I see. And he wants to play knight d6. But I'm not sure that's the best square for his knight. Knight d6. He played that very quickly, and I'm going to play f6 fairly quickly because I think I'm undermining that knight quite effectively. If I have to, I'm going to play knight f7 if I have time. Now what's he going to do with this knight? Doesn't really have any good escape squares, and I'm just going to take on e5, and that knight is sitting there as a target. To be honest, I thought he'd play knight a4 to c5, but actually knight e4 to c5 was pretty good too. Now what are we doing? Rook takes a6 is a threat. This is very tricky. So now he's defending this square. This is very tricky. Not sure what the right move is in this position, and I've got to play something like that. And also I've got 46 seconds, that probably doesn't help. So I've got to just play quickly. I forgot. This is very tricky. Very tricky. But his position is much better than mine. Definitely outplayed me here, although he missed the fact that that rook was on prise. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Not bad at all. I think he's going to kill me here. I think he's going to kill me. Yeah, definitely resignable. Well done. First blood to chesspatzeruk. So I was playing black, so I should be playing white, and I should have 5 minutes to 4. Okay, that was a good game. In that position, I think my last chance to play a sensible line might have been somewhere around here. This wasn't too bad. E takes f6, queen takes f6. Yeah, that probably wasn't too bad, but everything else after that was rubbish. So we'll see. Good game though. Okay, so now I've got 5 minutes against 4. So he's added the time for me, and let's see what we're going to play. In this opening, I don't normally play an open Sicilian. I normally play something far more boring. We'll see. So I've got time, and I've got time to put my pieces on reasonable squares. Let's see what happens. So I'm trying to attack him on the king side. I don't really want to castle. What I want to do is I want to play g4 and attack him. So I'm going to play queen d2, and I'm going to try and stop him playing d5, if that makes sense. Try and stop him playing this move, and try and keep ahead on time. That's a good move. I think what he wants to do is to play a6 and then try and capture my bishop. And also he might want to play d5, but I'm going to stop that with this maneuver. Playing something like bishop c4 here would be good. I think I'm going to castle here. That's a good point. What I really want to do is I really want to play knight f5, g4. I'm going to play g4. Positionally, probably not the greatest, but I want to put my pieces on good attacking squares. And in blitz I have a tendency to do this to the detriment of my position. I wouldn't recommend it in a long game. What do you think? If you're watching this online, tell me what you think. So that's a good move. b6. The idea being, what's the challenge? Well, he can't take back with the pawn, so I quite like this. Now he can't take back with the pawn, but he is threatening a6, and I've got to find a good square for my bishop. I don't really want to play that. Positionally, what is going on here? And then he might play d5. Okay, positionally this is not looking great, but I suspect that I can get away with playing bishop c4, and then when he takes it, I've got this pawn structure. Ah, you're right, I've got to take that. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have allowed that. Now he's going to play f5. Not quite what I expected to have to play. I can play... I've got to watch out for this square as well. So, watching out. That's interesting. I didn't think he would do that. If I play f takes, doesn't have f4, doesn't have a knight anymore. So, alright, queen takes. I'm going to use the e file. Okay, so my opinion of this position is that I'm doing alright. I probably didn't deserve to. I can play knight e4. And am I getting just killed? Trying not to just get killed. I'm just trying not to get killed. That's a summary of my match strategy. Trying not to get killed by Jack is the summary of my match so far. Definitely not playing premium chess. If you've tuned in to try and learn something, I'm not sure that you will learn anything from this game. Okay, well, I'm going to take it because I have a plan. If he takes it, queen g3. Oh, but good God, wasn't expecting that. Didn't expect that at all. So he's probably going to just take on there. Yeah. Now what? Now what? I think I am going to have to play that. Now I would be lucky to survive this. But I've got fighting chances if he exchanges queens. Otherwise, I'm just going to get killed on the diagonal. Takes f3 is a good move. It's a good move. What else do I have? I might have some chances. If I had bishop d5, that would be nice. But I don't. Yeah, that's the problem. I really need to exchange off that bishop. Now I have chances, but only, not that I deserve any chances. Back rank. He's got to watch out. Still back rank. Got to watch out. Back rank. Still got to watch out. Back rank. he's in trouble because I've got rook d8. I think he had to play rook. I might just get away with that. Depends how much time I've got left. Maybe. Very lucky. But I will accept a draw, probably, if he goes rook g3. What else can I do? Draw. Draw. Draw, draw, draw. Very good. Good game. I think he was very unlucky to not to win that. So now I think it's still 5-4, but I get black. So the times stay the same, I think, but I'm quite happy to accept whatever Jack decides. But I think when you draw, you just play again, same time control. Click rematch, and Jack probably gives me 5 minutes, yep, and then we just crack on. I'm going to play the same line I played because I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that's very good, but I'm just going to play faster. I'm just going to play faster and play something else. Good. So now we've got a different type of position, and one I'm not unhappy about. Is he going to play bishop g5? Do I care? Not really. He can play bishop g5. He doesn't have a light squared bishop. Have you noticed that? This is quite an important bishop if he's going to conduct some kind of kingside attack. And I've still got my bishops for the moment. Maybe he plays... He can't play knight e5 because that's hanging. But, you know, I'm happy with this position. I've got two bishops. I'm going to try and play c5 twice, or e5 once. If I can get in e5, that's a good achievement. If I can get in c5 twice, that can't be bad. Although I've got to prepare it. Is he going to take? No, he's not going to take. Okay, so now I'm happy with this because I can take the bishop on g3 with my knight and keep my bishop for the moment. Am I going to take it? Yes, no, think about it. Actually, that's a good point. I'm going to take it because he can't play knight e5 yet because f2 is hanging. So this is quite nice for black, and I'm not too worried about him taking on c5 and playing knight e5 because f2 is still hanging. What can I say? Is anybody on the chat? Tell me what you think of the game so far, and you're allowed to say rubbish. What's he going to do? He's probably aware that he doesn't have great position, but it's not bad position. I've got to watch out for knight e5 manoeuvres. Knight e5. If he plays knight e5, yes, now he can play knight g4 and knight e5. Good move. So I've got to watch out for that. I'm going to take on d4. Got to watch out for knight e5, and then if I play queen e7, he plays knight g6. So I can just about get away with it for a few moves because that's still hanging. But when he plays knight g4, knight e5 is definitely a threat. So think about this carefully. Knight g4 is definitely a threat. It's not such a bad position. I think I'll play queen h5 with the idea of stopping knight g4. maybe try and encourage him to play g4 himself. And I don't believe my position is too bad. Okay, well, I'm going to take queens off. Can't be too bad. If I take on e5, now I have this lovely pawn centre. Just got to make sure that I get it going and don't allow him to blockade on these squares. If he gets his knight to c5, I'm stuck. I've got to play. Hello Percy, yes, go on my mailing list, chessengland.com. If I play c5, that looks like a reasonable move. He can get away with... Oh yes. Okay, so let's play rook d8. No. Gosh, it's tricky. Okay, so I'm going to reroute my bishop to g6. This probably wasn't a very good move. He doubles rooks. Now he's free to go knight c2 to d4. This is not really what I should have played. I probably should have played c5 straight away. When in doubt, play the most sensible move. Sometimes you see a move instinctively and you should just play it. Now I'm grovelling slightly, but I'm not worried too much about this position. I don't think this is going to be bad for him. I think it's going to fizzle out to a draw somewhere along the line. But he just has to be very careful. Now, do I have d4? He doesn't really have time. Does he have time to play all this nonsense? I wonder. I don't know, it looks fairly good to me actually. He's going to mate me on e7. So what do I do? Something like king f8 at the end of it. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Doesn't have mate. And he has to be very careful. So he could easily lose just thinking about this. But that probably wasn't a good move. Because now I can just queen the pawn. That's just a loss, isn't it? It's all over. That was unlucky because I think that was just a draw, probably by repetition. Those positions where black runs the pawn up the board, but you can't move the rook without this rook taking it. Those are normally draws. If this king is safe, you can't move the rook with tempo. You can't move the rook at all, usually, because this rook will take the pawn. But he's given me a freebie. So I was very lucky there, and I know it. So I won that, which means, unfortunately, I probably get white, and I'm 5-3. And 3 minutes is getting to the point where it's tricky for both of us. And do I click rematch? I think probably he has to challenge me, and then I add time to his clock. Let's try it. Is that right? No, this can't be right. Okay, so if he's watching, he has to abandon this game and challenge me again at 3 minutes each, and then I give him 2 extra minutes. That's how we do it. Because our times should be, I should be 3 minutes and he should be 5, and I should probably have white. So rather than step on his toes, I shall wait for him to challenge me. It should be 3 minutes from my point of view 5 minutes from his point of view. Although he's had 2-1 games. I have robbed him with a draw and a win in both of them. Which is a bit cruel, but blitz chess is not perfect. If you're watching earlier, or you're watching this on YouTube, go and have a look at the beginning of the video and have a look at a couple of games there that I analysed. They're much more logical. Let's have a look. He's challenged me. 4-0 standard. Still don't understand that. I should be 5-3. Let's see if I can just chat to him. Should it be 3-5 me white? Let's see whether that makes any sense to Jack. And these sort of games are very entertaining, especially if you play at a club and you play 5-minute countdown on a blitz clock, something like that. Very entertaining. And online, even more so, because you're doing it in public. So let's see what Jack says, and we'll play another game. I could try challenging Jack. Let's try challenging Jack. Come on, let's try it. Be daring. Chesspatzeruk UK Twitch. I think it's 3. I've won a couple of games and we've drawn one, so I think I should be on 3 minutes, and Jack should be on 5. I think. But I'm not very bright when it comes to calculating these things. I think it's 5-3. I've got 3 minutes and Jack's got 5, unless he's taken a minute off for the draw, which he doesn't have to. I think it could be 3-5. Let's try that. Create a game. No. Go on, Jack. And okay. So he won a game. Okay, so Jack challenged me, and we'll just get on with it. 3-4. That sounds right. Good. I'm glad somebody's keeping track. So Jack, just challenge me and we'll go for it. Do you know what? I'm not very good at tie breaks either. So it should be. I should have 3 minutes. See, this is what I don't understand. Okay, that's all right. 4 minutes. Let's just do it. I'm going to play d4, and I'm going to rely on Jack to keep score because I trust him. And oh, he's playing the Dutch. Ah, he knew I'd be ready for him when he plays the Dutch. What am I going to do in this position? I think he's prepared something against knight c3. Let's see what it is. Let's see what it is. Bishop g5. We played this line before, and I'm not against the idea of taking on f6 and playing a3. Yeah, I've never been great doing the tie breaks in my head, but I'm quite happy to do the tie breaks using Swiss Manager, my recommended software. So I'm not totally sure about this position. I probably could have taken on f5. That was on freeze, and it was just on freeze. There was no trick. You can't really defend it except by playing g6, and do you know what? He's just going to let me have it. I'm just tempted to take it. I want to play h4, h5, but actually I'll probably just take it and then grovel. I'll grovel. I just want to take the pawn and grovel. I've got to be careful of knight b4, but I think that just is a pawn. You've got to play g6 in these lines, and then I play h4, and then black has to watch out. Even though I've given up my bishop pair, what does Simon Williams say? Harry is coming down the h file. So I'm happy with this position. My pieces are moving into good squares, and I'm a pawn up. What's not to like about this position? Because I suspected before this match, Jack Chesspatzer UK was saying how he'd prepared for me, and I guess he could. It's quite easy to do that, and just wondered what he was going to play. Now I'm going to go knight a4. That's probably not completely kosher, but I want to play rook c1 and c3 and open up the c file, and I reckon my knight might come to c5, and I don't mind if he swaps off bishops. Don't mind that too much. Now I'm going to play rook c1, and then I'm going to go c4, and he's going to get f5 and f4. Can't really do much about that. Can't really do much about that, can I? He's going to play knight g5. Okay. You are allowed to prepare, even in blitz chess. Now hang on a minute. This is a good square for the rook. I'm going to double my rooks and try and put a knight on c5. Who knows? Just got to be careful not to fall for any nasty tic-tacs. Bishop takes g3, knight e4. Not worried. Got good squares for my pieces. I might even play queen a6 if he lets me, but I'm going to play knight c5 definitely. Okay, got to move the rook. That's a good square for the rook. Defend my knight and then play rook c1, maybe knight c5. Just try and put my pieces on good squares and hopefully won't run out of time. That's a good move. He's going to play f4. I don't really care. I have to play my plan. His bishop is trapped just out of interest. How's he going to save that if I play something tricky? Knight e4, right. Well, I like my knight on c5, so maybe I'm not going to swap that off. Do I really want to give him the f file though? Don't know. Don't think he's got anything down the f file. If anything, I've got the f file. So what's he going to do? Oh, I've got to be very careful here. There are some nasty moves. Probably just want to play f4 and swap off a pair of rooks. I don't want to get mated. I think this is alright. This is okay. I keep telling myself this is okay. with any luck, I actually know what I'm talking about. So queen a6 could be tricky. I've got to find a good square for my pieces. I've got to move fast. Okay, queen a6. What's he doing? He's just giving me a piece. Okay, I might even be able to survive this. I might even be able to survive this. If I'm lucky. What's he going to do with these pieces? Got to play something sensible. Probably not that. Probably not that. Now he's got to be very careful. And we're just going to check each other. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to play rook there. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try and queen this pawn. I'm going to queen the pawn. With any luck, I can mate him. Done. Very lucky. Wow, okay, so 4-3 maybe. I get the black pieces. What did you think of that game? That was quite tense, wasn't it? I think he went astray in the opening, and in a normal game I think he'd have been in trouble a bit earlier, but it got very random. When I played queen a6, he could definitely have run his queen away and attacked me on the king side, and then he just left the bishop on freeze on b4. So now we're playing, I've got 3 minutes and he's got 4 minutes. So I have to give him 4 minutes, and then we just play. Let's see what he's got prepared in the French. We're just playing a closed. He does play this line quite a lot actually. So I don't mind playing this. It's not so bad. I don't think positionally it's that bad. He's got to be very careful about his dark squares. What are you going to do? He's going to take it. Okay, so theoretically, bishop g7, castles and f6 is okay. We will see whether or not that is nonsense. So now I can play f6 and he takes it. And then I'm in trouble maybe. Let's see. Knight h5 looks good. He's going to go for the pawn on e6. And I do have to watch out. I think he went the wrong there. But it's too late to worry about that. Okay, I've got a free pawn if I want it. I am tempted to take it. I've got 2 minutes. Okay, but I'm gonna play rook f8 and then double the rooks and see what I can do. But if he doesn't do anything, I am going to take that pawn on d4. Okay, now I can take it with tempo, and then if I take it, he moves the queen, and then I'm in trouble. Do I have tic-tacs? Do I have tic-tacs? I'm either losing the exchange. This is either a win or a loss, and you just got to be able to calculate it. Knight takes d4, Queen d4. Do I have anything ticky-tacky? I might have. Don't know. It's very difficult to say. I think possibly knight takes d4 was okay. Spent too long on that. That's typical of me, actually. Now, is he going to play f4? In which case, I've probably got a much worse position. Queen g... Oh, actually, no, if I go queen g4, that's a better idea. Okay, so queen g4, threatening rook takes f4. Let's see if he spots that. And then he can't really... Not really nice ways to get out of this. Chop, chop, chop. And here we go again with a rook and pawn ending. And I've got 1 minute 13 to win this ending. Yes, so we'll see. Chop, chop, chop. And I don't want to get mated. So exchanging off one pair of rooks, oh, it's probably quite good for him. But he went the other way. And now he's trying to mate me. It's difficult. Difficult, difficult, difficult. I've got to try and play d3, queen this pawn. I don't think I've got any other choice. Let's just do that. Let's just do that. Oh dear, I'm losing. Doing that, losing. Oh gosh, that's awful. But there you go. That is tragic. Yeah, I'll give him that. Don't think there's anything else I can do in that position. h5 check. I haven't got any cheapos. No. Well done. I shall resign that. And does that leave it as 4-all maybe? 3-all. And I should have white. So 3-all and white. That's very interesting. I was definitely winning that, and I'd be quite happy to play that again, but faster. Let's try it. Okay. Just make moves. See what happens. See if he falls for that. This is not preparation, by the way. I just played knight f3 and forgot he could play d5, takes e4. So it's got to be very careful here. There are some really tricky lines. Very tricky lines. Castles, castles. Okay. So I'm just going to try and bring my pieces to reasonable squares. And try not to do anything too stupid. I think f4 is okay. Excuse me. Put the rooks in the centre of the board, don't care about that. Back you go. Put my rooks in the centre of the board. Do I want to let him play knight f5? No. So g4 is not my favourite move in any position, but g4 is a good positional move, threatening g5. Now, this is something I like. I've got quite a good position here. I can just build up possibly quite a good spatial advantage. Could I play g5 and won a piece? Probably. He wasn't falling for it. So I don't see that I've got anything more sensible. I wanted to play c3 and bishop c2, but now I'm wondering, where am I going? We'll see. Try not to lose the pawn on e4. And now at least I've got a plan. I can play bishop c4 and put some pressure on. Bishop d4 check looks nice. Can I get away with queen a8 is a very good move. Now I've got to be very careful down that diagonal. Very careful. And what I really want to do is go bishop there and then bishop e4 and swap everything off on e4. Positionally that would work for me, but let's see what he does. He's not having any of it. So bishop e3 works. Go back. Bishop e4 loses a piece, so I've got to move the bishop. That is hard. It's not easy to find a decent square for these pieces. If I go there, what happens? I could play that, and I'm worried about losing my losing everything. So let's just do. This is a very difficult position. Let's go there. Very difficult position. I've got to basically rearrange my pieces in such a way that I don't lose them all. I think I can get away with that. Oh, that's a good move. That is a cruel move. And what do I do here? Bishop takes. Oh, it's nasty. Ay caramba. I haven't even got any cheap mates. I haven't even got any cheap, nasty mates. Damn it. And was I thinking I had rook takes d8 or something? This is not good. I think it's just all over. We'll see. It is all over. He's got to find moves. And so have I. Queen f3. I think he's just going to beat me. Whatever I do, it's just all over. I think I'm going to resign that one because it's well played. Didn't see that at all. Nasty move. c4, bishop c5. Really should know. Very good. So now I've got 3 minutes and he's got 2 minutes. Very nice. Yeah, I haven't got a cough so much as I'm not used to spending so much time just talking. So I think next game I might do less talking and just try and win a game. So he's got 2 minutes and I've got 3 minutes. So that's good. So he's got to give me an extra minute. And I'm quite happy to repeat what we played before. Can't be bad. Can't be bad. Not really that impressed with his choice of opening. Although, to be honest, my position wasn't particularly good around this point. So now he's going there. I've got to be very careful what I do. I'm happy with what I played. Possibly he should have played something else. Now queen takes g7. We've still got the same position. What is wrong with my position in this game? And then positionally, I don't know, I could just take on d4. And I think he might just end up with a dodgy endgame. So let's see. So if I play rook c8, yeah, okay, so that's fair enough. Rook c8. I'm going to play rook c8 anyway. Not that my endings are very good, but rook c8 looks alright. Rook c4 looks alright. I think he has to take it. It goes a bit too passive. Yeah. That is a bit too passive, isn't it? I just play rook there and force him to take this. I can play b5 supporting it. Yeah. Don't know, it looks alright. Looks alright. I'm gonna try and with that pawn. I believe that is my pawn. Free pawn. Well, the idea is to try and get a pass pawn. Oh, I could have played c3. Never mind. Do it next move. I believe that should win. Should win. Whether or not it does win is another matter. Did he do that? Maybe he just moved too fast. Okay. I think he moved. It splits, and he's on 2 minutes. It's not easy. So now it's 2 minutes each. Something like that. What did I think about that game? I think he's probably got a better line in that line, a better series of moves, but he's going to have to look at it afterwards, because I think I'll be quite happy to just keep playing it. So let's see what happens. I'm going to stick to my theoretical guns and just play what I played last time and take on f5. Why didn't you play g6? That's more like it. g6 is definitely more like it. This is more of a typical positional game. So I'm not going to play h5, I'm just going to play positionally. I'm going to play positionally, see what happens. Is he going to castle queenside? Oh, actually that's nasty. Oh, that is nasty. Okay, nasty, nasty, nasty. But luckily I've got knight h5, that is exceptionally lucky. g5 maybe is a move too soon, maybe you should castle. But you know, what can I say? I was lucky there. Let's see what else we can do. play e4, open up the position a bit, and now he's got an extra pawn. Got to watch out for that. Got to watch out for that a lot. Not easy. What are you going to do with your pieces? Don't believe you have enough to justify this attack. But let's see. See what happens. You're going to go knight f4. I have to take it. And then I go there. I'll exchange off something. Now what? Interesting. Okay, bishop. I've got some tricky moves. Oh, I can't do that. Let's go bishop h5 check. That's really nasty. I didn't even see that. What are you going to do? You have to put your rook in the way. That's not really what I expected. What are we going to do here? Caramba, he missed it. Oh, caramba. It's a draw. Wow, that was good, but I'm not quite sure how legal any of that was. Do you fancy a rematch? I'm not sure. Do you fancy that endgame? Aha. Well, do I fancy that endgame? I think yes. that was my endgame. So it's 2-all with just reverse colours. Aha. What's he going to do? Playing a kind of Dutch defence, but I'm not totally sure this is any good for white, mainly because we're going to do this dance for the moment, and I'm probably not going to accept a draw just to confuse him. Knight c4. I have got a nice square for my rook on d8, and I can put my bishop on d5, so this is probably quite nice. And he's really got to watch out for tic-tacs along the diagonal, especially this diagonal here. Yeah, he's got to play that. Take that. Take that. Got to play that. Got to play that. And then what do I do with my bits? I'm going to do that. Oh, 96. Painful. This is okay though. He's got to be very careful. It's much harder for him, I think it is for me. Check. Check. Got to be very difficult for him. What is he going to do here? He's probably going to try and mate me with... Oh, he didn't. Okay, that's lucky. Could have doubled rooks, maybe. Very difficult position. very difficult position for him too. What is he going to do with that? That rook on e6. It's on freeze if he moves, and then he can't play rook g1 because I got. Well, yeah. It's very hard to recommend a better move in that position. And I'm just going to try and run my king away. And with any luck, I might have some kind of checkmate with bishop g1. Queen takes f3. Oh, I haven't got that. Okay, let's do that. Hopefully, I'm not being mated myself. Yeah. Wow, this really does play havoc with your RSI. So it's 2-1, and I don't reckon my chance is much 2-1. But it was exciting. So now the idea is, in this position, we play a 1-minute game, and I give him an extra minute. So he's got 2 minutes, and I've got a whole minute. Let's have a look. Oops, that wasn't quite what I meant to do. Just forgive me a moment while I undo what I just did. Go yes. And I give him, what do I give him? I give him an extra minute. There you go. So, let's do it again. I'm not actually against the idea of playing that. I'm going to go there. This time I'm just going to be a bit more careful with my queen. I'm going to be a bit more careful with my bits. Of course I'm going to play that. Now he just has to work. Oh, that's a difficult move. What's he going to do? Yes, indeed. You have to be very careful. You have to watch out in these positions. What is he going to do? I'm going to put my rook on b1. What is he going to do? I'm going to take it. I'm going to bring my queen over. And theoretically, I should have quite a good position, but what's he going to do? Difficult for him. Check. Well, careful. Got to be very careful here. I might checkmate him. With the idea of queen b3. Damn it, he saw it. Now I think I've got him. Check. And check. Gotta take it, gotta take it. Check. Probably had something better than this. Check. 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 I'm going to lose on time. So I probably had a mate here somewhere. Damn it. I probably had a mate there somewhere. Never mind. All comes down to the very last game. Wow. I feel certain I had a mate there somewhere. What can you do? That is blitz, so well done. Well done. My bullet chess is definitely improving as a result of this this match. Is revenge sweet? Am I going to be able to play the last game and win it? Let's see. Tie break. I don't know if it's a tie break. I think we just play a move. Play what do we play? Just 1 minute each. Winner takes all. But they're good games. That was a very good game. I'm still not convinced about Black's opening. So what do we do here? Just click rematch. And was it 1 minute each? Okay. Get ready. Just play chess. I see, he just wants to play like that, does he? Okay, we can do that. We can do that. I'm not totally sure this is legal chess. Oops-a-daisy. That's just not the way to finish this fine match. It is not the way to finish this match. Jack! I'm so sorry, that is just a rubbish way to finish a game. Actually, the only reason that happened was because you weren't playing your normal style. Why move fast? I guess you have to in a bullet game, but there's no reason to abandon all the principles you hold so dear, as they say. That was an extremely tight match, but I don't deserve to win it like that. Just in case you're interested in the statistics, I'm very sure that I'm luckily just slightly ahead, and I don't think that reflects the quality of the games. I mean, there's plenty of games where one or other of us was winning, and we just stuffed it up with a move like that. You know, what can I say? I probably need to recover for a few hours, but hopefully if you've watched this match, you can check out the Chesspatzer community. I recommend looking at Chesspatzer UK's profile. Let's just see if I can find the website. Twitch TV Chesspatzer UK. You can see his games on YouTube, and with any luck you might be able to find his excellent website all about the Chesspatzer community. Is there a link? Is there a link from this page? Jack, you probably need to update this page with the link to the Chesspatzer website, and then everybody can see what marvellous things you're doing for chess online. But whew, what can I say? That's another match over. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks very much for Jack for setting up these matches. If you follow twitch.tv/chesspatzeruk or twitch.tv/Adam Ralph, here are the links. Come and follow us on Twitch or YouTube, and we will make sure that the links to the Chesspatzer community are available everywhere, so that you can have a look at all our games, some training games, stuff like that. But If you're interested in anything I do, come and look at chessengland.com, and I would be ever so grateful if you followed me on Twitch. And if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can subscribe to my channel. It won't cost you anything extra. You get it as it's a free part of your Amazon Prime subscription. I've used mine to subscribe to chesspatzeruk because what he does is brilliant, and if you like what I do, then you can reciprocate. And the other thing is, I have a Patreon page where you can donate and support chess in England. Thank you, Jack. Thanks for watching, everybody, and see you online again very soon.